right, we'll go ahead and get started. Um, I'm Todd Mobley with AKS Engineering. I manage the traffic engineering, transportation planning practice at AKS. Nathan Emerson, Medford office, he's a planner here. We're also partnered with Studio Davis, a small parking consulting firm in Portland. So we're in the middle of our work here on the downtown parking management plan. So I wanted to share some of what we've learned so far and where we are in the process. We have to go get some a quick overview of the project. Comprehensive parking management plan, intending to take a look at the whole system, make some recommendations on how we think things could be improved. Need our plan to be operationally effective, financially sustainable, and supportive of the downtown economic vitality. Project goal. Taking kind of a unique approach in this parking management plan. Oftentimes these types of projects start with lots of data collection, but City of Medford has already done quite a bit of data collection, so we're leveraging a lot of that work that's already been done in recent years. This is a summary of kind of the literature review, things that we're using, compiling this information and using that kind of as our data source base to work from as we go through the plan. A few of these were just done last spring and early summer 2025, coordinating a lot with City of Medford, their GIS information, parking downtown, including City of Medford wayfinding plan was done in 2022. So quite a long list of resources here to draw from. A quick overview of our work plan. Once we have our plan published, these first 5 tasks anyway kind of will follow what the report chapters in the report. The first is the existing conditions review, inventory validation. This will explain the previous work that was completed. I'll talk a bit here on the next few slides about how we validated that prior work. Task 2 is our parking demand utilization needs assessment. This is how we look at how the system is used and where demand is the greatest. So those 2 tasks we've completed. We have draft chapters in place on those 2. The next bundle of tasks we're working on right now are actually 3, 4, and 5, but actually 6, which is public engagement. Here we are. So share what we've learned here in task 1 and 2 and some of the direction we're headed here. Start with existing conditions and inventory. Shows that the total parking supply over 2,300 spaces. That the map there on the right, kind of our base. We have different figures to show different parking metrics using that. We have a lot of data on parking citations. One thing of note here in this table, the top 3 entries there, which total 65% total citations are for exceeding time stays. Most commonly the 2-hour free parking limit. A bit more on citations. Most of the citations written are on street block face, 63%. The figure that goes along with this looks a little misleading, maybe doesn't match the table at first glance, in part because of the garage is red. There's a lot of parking in there. The block faces are smaller, so anyway, most of the citations do occur on street parking. So this is map on the right. It's kind of hard to see a lot of the detail there, but really it's intended to look a bit like a heat map where we can kind of see where parking occupancy is the highest. This shows us the areas of downtown where they get the most parking. See these peak areas, it's probably not too surprising. Medford Garage, Medford and Theater Alley, south of there. Common Block has some pretty good demand. Kind of a separate pocket of demand in the southeast for RCC. And then kind of on the south part of the boundary, along grade between 8th and 10th is another small bit of higher occupancy. Did notice that in a lot of these instances, the parking demand drops pretty significantly as you move away from the activated blocks. An activated block is like a restaurant or a business that generates quite a bit of parking demand. Some of those blocks have pretty high occupancy adjacent, but then as soon as you move a block or two away, there's usually a fair amount of parking available. Since we didn't do the ground up data collection on our own, we did do some field verification to check all these sources and make sure we have an accurate data set. We've made multiple visits so far just to spend some time in downtown, see how it works, familiar with the system. Had a lot of conversations with city staff, parking management staff, Diamond Parking, to understand kind of what the issues are and where they see problems. We also created a web app with a 360-degree video. I thought I'd just share that just to show. It's kind of a useful tool. Zoom in. But we drove the whole enforcement area with the camera on top of the truck and recorded all of that and published it in this kind of web app so we could see. And trying to look at the one on the back of the room so it's easier to get into. Like, for example, we wanted to see what's going on here south of the garage. Drop it there. It actually runs a video. It might be kind of laggy in this presentation, so you can watch it in motion, especially for people online, probably. To populate. Works a lot better just on your local. You can also pan all the way around. So it's a pretty useful tool that we want to like try to remember where that 3-hour time stay started and the 2-hour stopped, things like that. It's a useful tool for us to validate the. We can make this available to you after. Let's see, next, I kind of wanted to look at the difference here and the comparison between occupancy and turnover. We can gain some useful insights here. Occupancy, we talked about already, that's kind of like where most of the congestion is, where the parking's the heaviest. Turnover, the red colors, red and yellow, are the higher rates of turnover we see. And most commonly at restaurants and things like that in retail spaces where the occupancy is high, the turnover is too, but not always. For example, you can see the Medford Garage there has a lower turnover rate. Kind of see some of the lower floors have a higher occupancy there on the left of the garage, but the turnover is pretty low. That indicates people, staying all day, probably office employees, things like that. So what we don't want to see is kind of the long duration stays in areas where we want kind of more turnover for those retail businesses. And again, the turnover looks similar with those areas of congestion around RCC and the other peak areas downtown. So we also are assessing the wayfinding and user experience, basically how people interact with the system when they come downtown. Did have survey results, percentage escapes me right now, but a significant number of residents reported that they avoid coming downtown because of the parking. We're really finding there's quite a bit of parking available downtown, so we want to be able to reverse that trend and really invite people to come downtown and have them comfortable doing that. Right now, the on-street parking is typically 2 hour or 3 hour, mostly 2 hour. Some of the surface lots have pay to park and use the pay by phone app. Some of those don't have the initial 2 hours free. The Medford garage does. So it's kind of a mix of how parking is managed downtown that I think creates some of that confusion. Yeah, let's see. Pricing varied by facility. Medford garage offers 2 hours free and a $4 daily cap. The Riverside Library lot has 1 hour free, a different escalating cost, a $5 cap. Other lots have an $8 weekly allowance. And then some of the permit parking also not very self-explanatory. If you're a permit holder, you might know what that means, but as somebody new to the system, you kind of don't. There's lots of designations for those parking. Some of those are in the Medford garage, some of their residential permits. That some of the things we're seeing kind of in the wayfinding user experience. So some of the things we're kind of headed in the direction to make some potential recommendations. I'll kind of reiterate, we've finished those first 2 tasks about assessing the data, verifying it, taking a look at that. So wayfinding, specific recommendations, and then the financial component of the financial impacts of things we might recommend. All those are underway right now, so we haven't finalized that. So the timing of this meeting is really to gain some public input, kind of inform the process as we finish this up. Some of the potential recommendations we're looking at, one is kind of update the city's website for parking. There are a few errors in there. Be able to get the public information that's easier to digest. There is there's the city's website for downtown parking. It does give a good overview. There's information here. The pay to park talks about the pay by plate. Those things I just mentioned. Rates are down here, but still it's not very uniform. The parking info has a link to this map, which is great. It's ArcGIS based interactive map. But we did find some of the things on the map don't match what's on the ground. And so some of that clean up and modify and help users understand how best to use the system. Second is really simplification, standardization of time stays, fees, and permit systems, so it's a little less complex. In our experience, if it's easier for users to navigate, that really kind of changes the public perception, encourages people to come downtown. If they know where they're going to park, or if they can park near where they're going to be, how much that's free, they're going to have to pay, how much that'll be. So really simplifying some of those metrics that would go a long way for the user experience. One thing I'll talk about some of this on the next slide too, but one thing we noticed is really these kind of pockets of activity, the rest of the enforcement area, primarily where there's a lot of office use. The demand is very low, but there are a lot of employees at these offices who move their car 4 times a day. They don't get a parking ticket and they park for free in 2-hour increments. So we're looking at some options to improve that practice, make that work a little better. early thought was to revise the parking enforcement boundary. It's pretty large, frankly. Some of the fringe areas where parking demand is low. We're moving away from that a bit, more in terms of how we would manage what's in the boundary differently than it is now. One thing we noticed pretty distinctly was the different operation for the Civic Center, kind of where we are now, the city and the county buildings. Oakdale is right now the edge of the enforcement area, but some of that Civic Center, the county buildings are on the other side of Oakdale. But this part of town really has different character, different operation, different needs than some of the retail and office uses, community college, some of those other downtown uses. So one thought was to manage that a bit differently. And then lastly, implement a cohesive parking app. So if we make changes to simplify the system, managing that via an app that would cover all the city-owned parking, whether it's in a surface lot or a garage or on-the-street parking, again, would simplify that user experience. We think encourage people to come downtown. So a bit more detail here. This is just sort of a first cut at maybe how we draw some boundaries around different uses. So the blue there is just the commercial core. It's in the parking area now. Those are kind of the busier areas we see in the occupancy and turnover data. The light green color there is kind of the areas that's still in the enforcement area. Some of it's really even kind of central to downtown, but the demand is really light. And that's kind of the areas where we see employees moving their cars 4 or 5 times a day, and people sort of finding ways to work around the way the parking system works right now. So one thing in that area would be potentially to have a permit system for employees. In offices, uses like that. So in our view, it would be a better use of the parking resource to have the ability for those people to park all day. And probably they'd rather pay a nominal fee and be able to park all day rather than worry about the 2-hour parking and go out there and move their car. They're in a meeting that's going long. They worry about, I gotta get out there to move my car. So a permit system would help us kind of leverage some of that available parking inventory and make a better experience for people that work downtown. And then lastly, the purple there is the Civic Center. So one option would be to amend the enforcement boundary to incorporate the Civic Center. Perhaps that has different time stays, different management approaches, since the needs there are different than some of the rest of downtown. Just some quick info here on parking apps, what other people do. The city uses pay by phone. That app does have more capability than I think how it's being used now in Medford. So that's an option. Eugene uses Park Smarter. The Bend has recently revamped their parking system. They use an app called Honk. They also use Passport Parking. Passport parking is pretty popular. I know other bigger cities like Tacoma, Washington uses Passport. And then lastly, Portland and Vancouver use an app that was developed in Portland called Parking Kitty. That started in Portland, now Vancouver is using it as well. Those are just some of the options available for parking management systems. So that's the end of the presentation. Thought I'd end with this slide. What happens if you have too many parking regulations? I didn't take this photo. I found it online, but I thought it was pretty good. Stole it. I wanted to leave plenty of time here at the end for questions and answers. People in the room, but be happy to discuss, or if anybody online has questions or input, be happy to hear it. Maybe I'll take one in the back. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
My name's Cody. I don't have much of a question, but I work with a disability. Services Advisory Council. And I just wanted to basically bring some attention to the fact that downtown parking with a disability, it's really hard to be able to enter some of these places. We're just recognizing as many disabled parking spaces available to the public. We formed a comment, if you don't mind if I read it. It won't take much time.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you very well. What was the last part of that?
Yeah, I was just, I'm just gonna try and read a comment
Oh, sure,
from the Disability Services.
absolutely.
I'll read it. It'll be a lot better with her.
Okay,
Thank you for your time to offer input on the city's downtown parking management plan. We'll keep it short to talk with you about the interests and needs of people with disabilities regarding disabled parking. People using disabled parking spaces often find that there are not enough of them. Standards for the number of handicap spaces required are out of date and don't reflect a larger demographic of aging and more active individuals issued disabled parking place cards. We advocate increasing the number of spaces beyond minimum requirements to foster inclusivity. It appears that the harsh marks are used widely to designate motorcycle parking and also accessible parking spaces. Striping besides accessible spaces is meant to hold extra space for those who need it. People seem to misunderstand hash marks in general. This could be solved by painting no parking together with the hash marks. Signage can be confusing. Oregon revised statutes defines what is required with posting disabled parking. Through many phone calls, web searches, and in-person visits to local law enforcement, we have learned that the programs and systems of enforcement have greatly diminished. People with disabilities are denied accessible parking, and lack of enforcement fosters the adverse outcomes. We ask for focused attempts, intentional efforts to increase the enforcement of handicapped disabled parking. Volunteer parking enforcement programs work well. I reviewed models from Portland and Houston and would love to share what we have learned. Medford had one in the past. We know many people who would like to volunteer as enforcement officers. We participate in monthly meetings of United Spinal Association's Accessible Parking Work Group and commend their excellent resources entitled The Complete Guide to Accessible Parking. It's useful information and best practices. As we hope to have a public service announcement locally produced soon on the proper usage of accessible parking spaces. We welcome any help you could give us. Thank you.
Thank you for providing that. You should be able to pick that up on the transcript, but is that something you can share, or maybe I can get a photo of it to make sure we have it complete?
Absolutely, sir. I just noticed there's a few slides back when you were in your AKS, like it had no accessibility. I'm just trying to bring attention to that there's no advocacy in there. So that's what we're trying to advocate for.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Maybe afterwards I could get a photo, or should we get a copy?
I've got two questions online. The first is from Stacy, says, has the assumption permit system been specifically asked in a survey? So I'm not sure exactly what she's meaning by that, but I don't believe we haven't surveyed any permit system yet. We haven't gotten that far in this study. Looking into options and comparisons. Her next question was, have we compared to a town similar to Medford instead of bigger cities? And so your comparable cities, are they similar in size to Medford population wise?
Yeah, I mean, Bend, Eugene's bigger, but definitely more closer than Portland and the metro area up there. Done other small town parking studies, so I think Bend is often a pretty good comparison to Medford. I'm open to other comparisons too. If folks think another city is more similar, we'd be happy to take. Go ahead.
My name is Spencer. I am the branch manager for the Jackson County Library Medford branch. And my question is part question, part recommendation or request. I know the city of Medford extended many parking lot or parking spaces about fall of 2025, if I remember correctly, from 1 hour to 2 hour. And I was hoping you could share kind of the impact that has had on the downtown parking, if that is known. And then also a request that the Riverside parking lot be expanded to 2 hours free, although it sounds like there is some consideration for kind of standardizing that process already in play.
Dane, do you have input on that prior change? Not sure I have the insight on that.
As far as changing which lot?
So in, I think it was October of 2025.
You're referring to the on-street parking that was 1 hour?
Yes, that was on street parking. I would love to see that happen at the Riverside Library lot.
I can give you reasons for why we did it, and I think you probably know. I don't think we got a lot of feedback on the impact
Good to know.
to this point.
I think if you go back to citations, I think the biggest one, right, is folks are violating, staying more than the 2 hour limit. I think if you go back and look at the data from the previous one, I think that was even more so true.
You've got parking past the 1 hour limit up there, and I would point out that, well, what's the time frame covered by these numbers? Is this a calendar year or?
Oh, I'd have to review our data set of citation and was.
1 calendar year.
1 calendar year, last year, 2025?
It wasn't, I apologize. It was a year, April to April.
April to April, so half of this time frame, we didn't issue any citations for parking pass, or very few for parking pass 1 hour limit, because we had very few spots that were 1 hour. But you can see in half a year, I got that many citations.
Yeah, as a per capita matter.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
That. Is there another question, comment?
Possibly somebody wants a live mic, but I'm not set up for that today, so if you can ask via Teams chat.
Sorry.
What kind of volunteer program does Medford have right now for being able to help, like the traffic citations?
I might have to defer that question to city staff. Volunteer programs.
I don't believe currently we have anything. So Public Works took over the downtown parking program beginning of this year from Mira. And that's kind of what started this whole idea behind building a parking management plan, is that it was several smaller, older plans we've kind of been using to balance this. And some of that stuff needed to be revamped. So one of the things we may look at is what kind of opportunities do we have out there for your work? As of right now, as far as the downtown goes, if you're looking to do anything volunteer wise, I would say probably talk to the downtown association.
Okay.
I
I was just curious if there was actually programs in place for that. And if there was not, then re-engage or look at starting those.
Yeah, I think that's a great recommendation. So we'll make note of it. I found a way to unmute Matt Allen, so. Alan DeBoer, I believe I unmuted you. Can you hear me?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we got you.
Okay. Okay, my name's Alan DeBoer, president of Ashland, but businesses in Medford. About 40 years ago, Medford had a parking tax, and a group of local business people got together, which I was part of. And we actually Medford had a lot of parking lots leased. We got the city to not renew the leases. The lots were all bought by the city eventually after some negotiations. We got rid of the parking tax and those lots became free. So there's some history there if you need it that I have available. The other thing is get rid of the road diet. It is the worst thing I've ever seen. And I know people are not going there, including my wife and myself, because it is so confusing. We were at the Criterion play on Saturday, which is really busy because that play has, I don't know how many hundreds of people in it. And it was right at 3 o'clock. We had to drive around a little bit, but we found parking. It was fine. I also own the historic Ashland Armory, which virtually has no parking and sometimes has events with 200 to 300 people. People will find parking. I hope we're not going to create another parking tax. So we do have an empty lot by the post office that is available. I don't know how we make it available for parking. And I did sell the latest new ground parking lot to the city, which is across from the library. I really question for cities to spend $95,000 to study parking. It seems pretty simple. You need to make it less confusing. It's easy to fix people that are moving their cars. Most cities have signs. And one thing you could do is like the bank that's or real estate that's across from Criterion. They have these signs up, an empty parking lot on Saturday. They're not open. Maybe help incentivize them to put signs up that say parking available after hours. Thank you by whoever the business is. Because now they have signs that say the car will be towed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I could have parked there. I didn't, but I found one on the street in the road diet, which is scary to park in. So anyway, I'm available. I've been through this 40 years ago. We fixed the problem. And I think the best thing a city can have is a parking problem. That's not a bad thing. It means that downtown's vibrant. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Not seeing any more questions. Anything else out here?
I apologize for arriving late. Is this gonna be online anywhere where I can catch up?
Recording it.
We are. I'll do my best to make it available. I'll work with our media team and see if we can't put a link on our city website.
Okay. How would I find out when that would happen?
Do you have email?
Yeah.
So when this is over, if you want to, I'll there's some contact with you. Anyone else had a question or a comment?
Tom Stone, I've had a restaurant in downtown at 317 East Canyon, 26th. Seen it all. Configuration of Main Street now has cost me 50% of my business. Show you the data. The only other suggestion I have other than finally fixing that, which I think they're going to do, but you never know, is on the parking garage, you might put a sign up that says 2 hours free parking. People don't go in there because they're afraid they have to pay to use it. Plenty of places they could park, they won't go in because they're afraid it's gonna cost them money. Or they're gonna get a ticket.
Where's your restaurant?
We know where the strip club is. Caddy corner from that.
Okay.
I don't know if you know where Hubbard's used to be, but right next to that.
Okay.
100 yards off Riverside on East Main.
Okay, great.
And that's what, so your customers are telling you that, right? That they don't know about the free parking in the garage?
Yeah. I mean, I try to tell them, but.
Yeah.
And another thing we might have an issue with in the future, if we started using DoorDash, need a place for them to park so they can run in and get it and come back out again.
good point.
Yeah, an observation.
Sure.
This gentleman here and Mr. DeBoer previously both, I know we're here to talk about parking. They both brought up Main Street configuration. And I really appreciate your comment that you never know what's going to happen, but what's scheduled to happen now. And we got a bid last night to do this work that we're going to bring to council in a couple of weeks for approval. As we're going to have a contractor in September go in and remove the bollards, remove the striping, and restripe Main Street so that it's doesn't have the confusing two-way separated bicycle track. That's gone. Doesn't have parking in the middle of the street. That's gone. There'll be 2 lanes of traffic, parallel parking on one side, angled parking on the other side. And the angled parking is going to yield about 40 more spaces. But it is very much related to parking, but I appreciate the concern about the Main Street
They
configuration.
came up with something in February and then someone else complained.
We changed it 3 times this year.
That's what I mean. You never know.
So I appreciate that comment, but we've got a bid now to get the work done.
Changed it. No one had.
Well, yeah, we
You just came in the next day and there it was.
I-
I wouldn't ask for any comments from anyone at that time.
well, we've gotten plenty of comments since then. And hopefully we're addressing that.
I think that's what I'm talking about.
They're not looking at that. That's an independent decision. But that's what council decided to do. They voted in May to approve that concept, to get rid of the 2-way bike track and to create additional parking on Main Street. You have anyone else? There street parking.
Actually, that's all permitted, right?
Yeah. So it's not free, available.
Does that need to run?
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
I think we're good. I can answer those. And I can work with Alan. Any future communications.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, if folks want to leave their email, is that a way to get communication?
Yeah.
An engineering company. Yep. Answer anything?
Alaska, Kansas.
Could be. Good. Good.
Thanks for providing.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming all the way down here. Hopefully you got some decent info. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's coming up here shortly.
See you there.
On that part, on that bike, on the bike. So,
I did.
thanks, Ryder.
Not downtown.